My neighbor spent 34 years working. Never missed a bill. Never skipped a payment. Last summer he bought a $58,000 boat. 11 weeks later his company restructured and eliminated his position. The boat is under a tarp in his side yard. He still owes $46,000 on it. He is 57 years old and has not found work in 18 months. That is not bad luck. That is a trap. And there are 4 more exactly like it waiting for men in their 50s right now. The typical American man in his late 50s has about $87,000 saved in his 401k. Most retirement calculators say he needs closer to $700,000. That is a $613,000 gap, and most men sitting on it have no idea it exists because everything on the outside still looks fine. Your 50s feel like the safe zone. Best income you have ever had. Most experience you have ever had. The feeling of finally knowing what you are doing. That feeling is the danger. Because the math behind every financial decision you make in your 50s is completely different from the math in your 30s. And most men never get told that until something breaks. The first trap is the expensive reward. The boat. The truck. The RV. The country club membership. Anything large that feels justified after 30 years of work. Here is why this trap is uniquely dangerous in your 50s. Financial planners call it sequence of returns risk. A portfolio hit in your 30s has 25 years to recover. The same hit at 55 leaves you 5 years from the moment you stop earning. A dollar lost at 55 is roughly 3 times as expensive in retirement terms as a dollar lost at 35. My neighbor's boat cost $58,000 to buy. Add financing, slip fees, insurance, maintenance, and the loss on the sale, you are looking at $90,000 of wealth deleted at the single worst moment in his financial life to delete it. The second trap is the assumption that you will work until 67. Almost every man I know in his 50s has some version of this plan. Work the full timeline, ramp up savings at the end, retire on schedule. The 2026 Employee Benefit Research Institute data says 3 in 5 people stop working before 65. The most common reasons are health problems, caregiving demands, and employer decisions, restructurings, layoffs, consolidations. Things that do not ask your permission. The median expected retirement age is 65. The median actual retirement age is 62. That 3-year gap on an underfunded plan is not recoverable. Plan for 62. If you work until 67, you are ahead. Get pushed out at 62 on a plan built for 67, and you are finished. The third trap is the sandwich. You are supporting aging parents and adult children at the same time. ARP research puts 63 million Americans in a caregiving role right now, spending an average of $7,200 per year out of pocket on an adult relative. Add an adult child back home, and you are funding 3 households on one income at exactly the decade you needed to be saving hardest. The problem is not that you want to help. The problem is helping without a hard annual cap. You cannot fund 3 retirements out of one income. The math allows one fully funded with modest support to the others. Try to fully fund all 3, and the only one you control collapses, after which nobody gets supported. The fourth trap is concentrated company stock, and it is the most invisible of the 5. A friend of mine has worked at the same Fortune 500 company for 31 years. Last time I looked at his numbers, 63% of his investable assets were in a single ticker, his employer's stock. He will tell you this is fine, because he knows the company from the inside. Every employee at Enron said the same thing. So did the engineers at Bear Stearns in 2007, and the long-timers at GE before its decade-long collapse. When something goes wrong with a company, you lose your paycheck and your portfolio in the same week. That is not a risk profile. That is a single point of failure. No single stock should exceed 15% of your investable assets. Most men in this situation are sitting at 8 to 10 times that. The fifth trap is the healthcare bridge, and it is the one that turns a solid retirement plan into a crisis without warning. When you leave work before 65, you exit the employer insurance system. On the ACA marketplace in 2026, the average unsubsidized annual premium for a 60-year-old is approximately $15,900, with deductibles above $5,000. The enhanced subsidies that made this manageable expired at the end of last year. A couple with retirement income above $85,000 is now paying $26,000 or more per year in premiums alone. For 9 years of bridge coverage until Medicare, that is $250,000 that almost nobody has in their retirement plan. 3 things you can do this week. First, calculate your fixed monthly obligations as a percentage of take-home pay. At every committed outflow, mortgage, car payments, insurance, loan minimums, family transfers, subscriptions you cannot cancel with one phone call. Divide by take-home. If that number is above 55%, you have a structural problem, not a discipline problem. Pick one obligation and start eliminating it this week. Second, if you have employer stock anywhere, log in today and find what percentage of your total investable assets it represents. If the answer is above 15%, set up an automatic quarterly sell order at a fixed share count and let it run until you are under 15%. Do not make this a manual decision. The version of you who decides manually next quarter will find a reason not to do it. Third, if you plan to retire before 65, multiply the gap in years by $20,000 per person in your household. That is your healthcare bridge. It needs to sit in a separate conservative account before you walk out of work for the last time. If it is not there yet, move your retirement date until it will be. None of these traps announce themselves. Each one is a slow leak. 5 separate holes running quietly for years until the boat is empty before anyone understood it was sinking. The men I know who got hit were not reckless. They were just operating with the wrong math for the decade they were in. Your 50s do not forgive what your 30s did. The math changed. The only question is whether you did too. Drop a comment with which trap is sitting closest to home for you right now. Subscribe to Randy Explains Money. I will see you in the next one.